The signal reached humanity in the final hours of a quiet cycle across the Sol frontier. Traders drifting between stations first caught the faint signature. Analysts listened next, puzzled by the pattern. Engineers passed it along with concern. At last the message reached command, and it was there that the meaning became clear. Someone far beyond human territory was calling for help. That call was broken by static, but there was no mistaking the tone within it. It was a plea. It carried the raw edge of terror. It carried the exhaustion of a people who had tried everything before reaching out one last time to strangers. The message came from a small world named Kara. Few humans had heard of it. Maps listed it only as a minor colony inhabited by a gentle species known for diplomacy rather than war. That species called itself Valora. They were known to be soft-spoken, hesitant to threaten, and unwilling to fight even for their own protection. They preferred negotiation, alliance, and slow, patient compromise. It seemed impossible that a people so peaceful could attract the kind of voice that choked through the transmission. Yet the evidence was plain. The Laura were under attack. Their attackers remained unnamed in the damaged message. All humanity heard for certain was the fear in every syllable in the long era since. Humanity had carved out a place among the stars. There had been many challenges. Some species had tested human resolve. Some had underestimated their capacity to defend themselves when threatened. Others had learned to work alongside them. Through those trials, humanity had built a reputation for stubbornness. That stubbornness sometimes felt like aggression to others, but those who fought beside humans knew it for what it was. It was loyalty sharpened by hardship. It was the instinct that drove humans to protect not only their own, but anyone who stood beside them. So when the plea from Kira reached them, the reaction spread with a force greater than any command. The people of Sol reacted first with shock, then with anger. Not anger at the Laura for asking, nor at themselves for being caught unprepared. Their anger was aimed at the unknown aggressors, who believed they could break a peaceful world while the rest of the galaxy watched in silence. The image of the Laura as gentle folk only made the fury in human hearts burn hotter. Across ships and stations, across cities on Mars and domes on Titan, across orbiting habitats and deep space outposts, a single sentiment rose. If the Laura asked for help, they would get more than help. They would get protection. They would get soldiers, pilots, medics, engineers, and volunteers from every corner of human space. They would get every force humanity could gather. A commander named Wraith was among the first to respond. He was neither the highest-ranked officer nor the loudest voice, but he was quick to act. Wraith called his crew before dawn and told them of the message. The crew listened in silence, and their silence was not hesitation. It was the quiet before a force gathers speed. When Wraith finished, every hand in the room raised to volunteer. This pattern continued across ship after ship. The fleets assembled almost faster than orders could be written. Civilians arrived at enlistment stations with packed bags. Freight companies offered their ships for transport. Scientists asked for passage to Kara to provide any form of relief they could. It was not a military campaign alone. It became a promise written in the hearts of millions. The journey to Kara was long, but the fleets moved at maximum speed. As they traveled, additional fragments of the Laura message were decoded. The Laura had been struck by a force using weapons that burned cities with precision. Homes were destroyed. Children were evacuated into caves beneath the hills. The attackers spoke no demands. They left no warning. They struck again and again with the cold certainty of a force that believed itself unopposed. The Laura had attempted negotiation even as their towns fell. They had reached out to nearby systems, but none responded in time. Only when desperation outweighed every cultural hesitation did they broadcast far beyond their borders, hoping someone might hear. Humanity had heard. Humanity was coming, When the fleets arrived, Kara's skies were lined with smoke. Fires glowed across the horizon. Entire regions lay silent where once farms and villages had stretched over the plains. The Laura defenders, few and untrained, worked alongside elders to guide survivors into shelters. Wraith walked among them after landing, struck by their calm. Even wounded, they moved with gentle voices. They thanked the humans who had reached them, though their voices trembled with fatigue. Wraith asked where the attackers had gone. A Laura guide pointed toward the northern shore. The enemy had established strongholds along the coast and used those positions to launch further strikes inland. Human forces wasted no time. Engineers restored power to damaged shelters. Medics treated burns and injuries using portable hospitals dropped from transports. Pilots surveyed the coastline. Commanders prepared plans that balanced speed and caution. Wraith stood among them, listening to reports. The attackers used energy projectors unknown in human design. They relied on formations that moved swiftly and without hesitation. They targeted civilians with the same precision they used on military outposts. This was not a conflict fought for territory. It was an assault meant to erase. When human ships took flight again, the sky shook with their engines. Pilots flew low to draw enemy fire away from villages still standing. Ground teams advanced through forests and hills, scanning for survivors. The first clash occurred near a ruined pier on the northern shore. There, human marines met the attackers face to face. Their foes were tall and armored in rigid plates of metal. Their weapons glowed with unnatural intensity. But armor does not decide the will to fight. When the attackers moved to fire on a group of Laura children hiding behind fallen logs, the Marines stepped between them and met the assault with shields raised. The battle that followed sent shockwaves through the enemy lines. Humanity did not fight with elegance. They fought with focus drawn from fury. Every Marine fought as if defending their own home. Every pilot flew as if every life below depended on their wings. The attackers soon learned that the quiet species they had targeted was no longer alone. They realized the humans were not content to push them back. Wraith issued a directive to the fleets. They would dismantle every enemy position on Kara. They would secure the planet so completely that not one Laura would ever fear again. Other commanders echoed the message. The operation became not just a rescue, but a declaration that, as the conflict intensified, the Laura watched with awe. They had never seen such resolve. They saw humans stitching wounds with steady hands. They saw engineers rebuilding water lines while still catching their breath from the march. They saw soldiers leave their rations for hungry children. They saw pilots choose dangerous routes to keep blasts from hitting shelters. The Laura had believed humanity strong from rumor. They had never understood the depth of that strength until they witnessed it firsthand. Wraith spent many days on the front lines. He moved between units offering direction and lending support. In the final push toward the coastal stronghold, he led a team through rocky hills as storms rolled across the sea. Lightning flashed against smoke. Rain hit the ground in sheets. Through that storm, the humans advanced. They broke through the outer defenses with coordinated strikes. Inside the stronghold, they found machines designed to power the energy projectors. They disabled those machines with careful precision to avoid triggering catastrophic reactions. When the final chamber was secured, the enemy withdrew from the region entirely. Victory on Kara did not bring celebration at once. The damage across the planet was vast. Many families had lost homes. Forests had burned. Rivers were clouded with ash. But the attackers were driven away. That alone allowed the Laura to breathe again. In the weeks that followed, humans and Laura rebuilt side by side. The Laura offered guidance on their customs. Humans taught techniques to reinforce structures against future threats. Together, they restored farms and cleared debris. The bond between the two species grew stronger with each shared task. Wraith oversaw the reconstruction with a steady presence. He walked among both crews, answering questions and lending a hand when needed. He saw children laugh again. He saw elders walk through rebuilt gardens. He saw fear replaced by calm. For him and for many humans, this was the true measure of victory. Not the defeat of the attackers, but the restoration of hope. When the time came for the fleets to depart, the Laura gathered at the spaceport to offer gratitude. Their leader stepped forward and bowed deeply. She thanked Wraith and every human who had come to their aid. She said her people would never forget that when they called for help, humanity had answered with not only strength but compassion. Her voice trembled with emotion and sincerity. Wraith responded with equal respect. He said humanity had not come for glory or conquest. They had come because no peaceful people should stand alone when danger threatens. He said that if ever the Laura faced hardship again, they should send another call, and humanity would answer without hesitation. As the fleets rose from Kira's surface, the sky shone clear for the first time since the attack. Light broke through clouds that once carried smoke. The Laura watched the ships depart until they became distant points against the horizon. They knew the memory of this event would last for generations. They knew the bond formed here would shape the future of Bot.